The truth behind this will shock you. Imagine you're a NATO country that's committed to buying 88 F-35 fighter jets worth billions of dollars. Everything's been planned out. Your allies have given the green light. The American contractor is ready to go then. Suddenly, a Nordic nation that just joined NATO steps in, not just with an offer to sell aircraft, but with a deal that could completely reshape North American defense. That's exactly what's happening with Canada right now. Sweden just made a proposal. That's got Washington rattled, Ottawa reconsidering, and defense experts worldwide paying attention. This isn't just about buying planes. This is a story about sovereignty, about alliances, about whether a small to medium nation can challenge technological dominance from a superpower. The biggest question is, will Canada take the safe route with America or open a new chapter with a partner from Stockholm? So, what exactly did Sweden propose that's causing such a shockwave? Let's get one thing straight. This isn't your typical aircraft purchase deal. Saab, Sweden's manufacturer of the Gripen fighter jet, doesn't just want to sell planes to Canada. They're proposing to manufacture the Gripen right there in Canada. The entire assembly line, maintenance, and upgrades would be in Canadian hands. No need to ask Washington for permission. No need to wait for parts from Texas. No need to worry about supply cuts if diplomatic relations take a turn. But there's more. Saab is also proposing to manufacture the Global Eye aircraft in Canada, a modern surveillance and reconnaissance system that many experts say is an indispensable tool in the increasingly tense Arctic environment. If this deal goes through, Canada would become the manufacturing and maintenance hub for Gripen across the entire Western Hemisphere. The job numbers: 12,600 new jobs, 9,000 from the Gripen program, 3,600 from Global Eye. These are high-tech positions, stable salaries, and most importantly, they're not dependent on decisions from foreign countries. But Sweden's ambitions don't stop at Canada. Defense sources indicate that with a factory in Canada, Saab could produce between 150 and 200 Gripen aircraft. Not just for Ottawa, but for Ukraine, other NATO allies in the global export market. This means Canada wouldn't just be a customer, but would become a strategic industrial partner of a European defense powerhouse. And that's when Washington starts to worry. Sweden just joined NATO after over 200 years of pursuing a neutral policy, and now needs a reliable industrial partner on the other side of the Atlantic. A partner that's not locked into America's control system. Canada is the perfect choice with its vast territory, harsh Arctic climate, and need for aircraft with low operating costs but high performance. The Gripen E is designed precisely for the conditions Canada faces. It can operate on frozen highways, needs only 500 meters of runway, and can scramble in 10 minutes from cold status. Compared to the F-35, which requires complex infrastructure, the Gripen is like it was born for Canada's remote and harsh environment. The war in Ukraine is an even bigger reason. Kiev has placed an expected order for up to 150 gens. But Saab's factories in Sweden don't have the capacity to produce at the necessary speed. If Canada becomes the manufacturing base in North America, Saab could double its production capacity. Meeting demand from both Europe and the Western Hemisphere, analysts see a bigger picture. Sweden doesn't just want to sell aircraft. They want to break the F-35's monopoly within NATO. Washington is worried about the possibility of Canada choosing the Gripen over the F-35. The core issue is that Canada has only committed to buying the first 16 F-35s out of a planned total of 88, with 72 aircraft still without an official decision. This is exactly the opening Sweden is targeting. If Canada decides to split its fleet into two types of aircraft, half F-35, half Gripen, this would seriously impact NORAD, North America's air defense system. Operating two different types of aircraft with two maintenance systems, two supply chains, and two sets of technical standards could weaken coordinated combat capabilities. The U.S. ambassador to Canada has warned about these enormous costs and risks. Washington's bigger concern is the domino effect. If Canada, a close ally and founding NATO member, can reject the F-35 to choose a European option, other countries like the Netherlands, Denmark, Belgium, Finland, and Spain might follow suit. These nations are struggling with cost overruns and low operational readiness rates for the F-35. If Canada's dual fleet model succeeds, other NATO allies might question their complete dependence on American technology, which is the Pentagon's worst fear. The Gripen E's operating costs are a standout strength, just $5,800 per flight hour compared to $35,000 for the F-35 and 83% savings. The purchase price is also lower, around $85 million versus $100 million for the F-35. When you multiply these numbers by thousands of flight hours annually, the difference becomes massive. Technology-wise, the Gripen E is equipped with the Skyward GIRST system, an infrared sensor capable of passively detecting low radar cross-section targets, including stealth aircraft. At beyond visual range, without turning on radar, the electronic warfare system with 360 jamming capability is described as a digital shield protecting the aircraft from enemy missiles and radar. The Meteor missile is a formidable weapon with a range of over 200 kilometers and a throttable ramjet engine that creates a significantly larger no-escape zone compared to the F-35's AM-120D. Many analysts believe that in long-range air combat, a Gripen armed with Meteor could pose a serious threat even to stealth aircraft. The Gripen's greatest strength lies in its flexibility. It can take off from frozen highways, land on runways just 500 meters long, and scramble in 10 minutes from cold status. For Canada, where thousands of kilometers of Arctic territory lack military infrastructure, this is an advantage that can't be overlooked. Canada's decision doesn't just affect Ottawa or Washington. It's reshaping global geopolitics in ways few predicted. If Canada chooses the grain, it would be a powerful signal that NATO members don't need to be completely dependent on American technology. Sweden, the alliance's newest member, is proving that Europe can provide independent, effective defense solutions that aren't controlled from Washington. This could encourage diversification in NATO defense procurement, reducing reliance on a single supplier. In the Arctic, the Gripen, designed to counter Russia with its ability to operate in freezing environments, flexible takeoff and landing capabilities, and powerful electronic warfare makes it an ideal choice for air defense missions, where Russia is increasing its military presence. If Canada deploys the grain here, the strategic balance could shift significantly. China is watching very closely. Beijing is always looking for ways to prove America's technological dominance is weakening. If Canada, a close ally, can reject the F-35, that's evidence that U.S. allies are seeking diversification. This could push other countries in Asia and the Middle East to consider alternatives to American weapons. The trade war makes the situation more complex. Prime Minister Mark Carney is calling for a review of the F-35 deal amid tensions with the Trump administration. Tensions with the U.S. president threatens tariffs and declares he wants to make Canada the 51st state. Industry Minister Melanie Joly has publicly stated that Canada isn't getting enough industrial benefits from the F-35 deal. The big question is, could a defense decision become a trade negotiation tool? Not everyone supports the Gripen. 12 former senior Royal Canadian Air Force officers, including former Chief of Defense Staff Tom Lawson, wrote an open letter strongly opposing it and calling for the purchase of all 88 F-35s as originally committed, Lawson warned clearly. The F-35 is so superior to the Grand that any cost savings from a second fleet would be lost because that fleet would be virtually useless in a war situation. The former officers are worried about the current shortage of pilots and technicians in the Canadian Air Force. If they have to maintain two completely different types of aircraft with two training systems, two part supply chains, and two maintenance procedures, does Canada have the resources to do it effectively? Industry is also applying pressure. L3 Harris MS warns that if Canada doesn't buy all 88 F-35s, they could lay off 500 employees, leading to the loss of about 1,600 jobs across the industry. High-tech positions with good salaries that would be hard to replace in the short term. The story isn't over. Sweden's proposal has created the most complex situation in Canadian defense procurement history. It's no longer a choice between two types of aircraft, but a choice between two completely different visions of the future. The F-35 represents supreme technological power, deep integration with NATO and NORAD, and commitment to the American alliance, but it comes with dependence, high costs, and little control. On the flip side, the Gripen symbolizes technological sovereignty, industrial independence, and the ability to determine one's own defense destiny. But the price is risk regarding compatibility with allies and potentially falling behind technologically in the future. Prime Minister Mark Carney still hasn't made a final decision. Ottawa is weighing military capability, alliance, obligations, economic sovereignty, and relations with Washington amid unprecedented trade tensions.